Keeping venomous reptiles is an unforgiving hobby, requiring proper training and lots of experience. One simple mistake can be the difference between life and death. Remember, the most venomous snake in the world is the one that just bit you. There are no venomous snakes with training wheels. Just because you see Viperkeeper handle snakes a certain way does not mean you should try it too.
Hey, Viperkeeper here. I haven't done any sort of frequently asked question or Viperkeeper 101 sort of thing in a while. So I thought I would take a few minutes to do this. First of all, I'd like to thank all the subscribers that have been with me for a long time, as well as all the new subscribers. Thanks very much for your support. Perhaps one of the most frequently asked questions is, have I ever been bitten? Well, yes, I have been bitten. I've been doing venomous snakes since 1973. In 1974, when I thought that I knew everything and didn't heed warnings from people who were more experienced than I was, I got tagged by a local timber rattlesnake near where I grew up. I got 6 vials of the white polyvalent, and after a week stay in the hospital, I was released and recovered uneventfully. Didn't sustain any sort of problems after that. It's definitely a lesson learned, something that you don't want to repeat. I went to 2014 before I had a repeat where I required Anti-Venom. I had a couple of dry bites in between, nothing really to discuss. The bite in 2014 was a full onslaught attack by a black mamba, the same one that you saw in Dancing with Death. It popped me. Totally took me by surprise, which was my fault, of course. I tried to parry its strike with a snake hook that I had, but it slipped past and bit me on the upper chest. I was at the ER within an hour. A little shortly thereafter, actually I was at the ER half an hour after the bite and was receiving Anti-Venom within an hour. I took 3 vials of South African polyvalent to reverse the actions of the envenomation. Note, if you have your own Anti-Venom, you can fly under the radar so it doesn't become a big media circus. This is very important. Yes, I stock my own Anti-Venom for most all the snakes. Certainly the elapids, which will kill you quite quickly, like the taipans, like the cobras, including Elvis, who's sitting over there on his log waiting to be freed for his weekend enrichment excursion around the room. Live feeding. I don't do live feeding on the camera for 2 reasons. One, gives the Humane Society people some ammunition to use against us because we're being cruel. Well, actually it happens in the wild, so how could we be being cruel? However, there are people out there that enjoy this sort of bloodlust stuff. And I'm not one of them. I've seen various snakes that get live fed, how quickly the venom acts and the distress that it causes the animal before it succumbs. It's not something I'm really excited about. It's the least interesting part of keeping these special animals is, feeding them. For the most part. I really enjoy a lot of their behaviors. So with that said, the second reason is if you don't watch closely and make sure that the prey item is killed or removed from the cage, after a short while if it's being ignored, because mice and rats have this bad habit of chewing on the snake, and snakes have been killed or stripped pretty clean of their flesh by a rat left in the cage. So I don't do that, and you know, it's really hazardous for me to get a very scared rodent out of a cage once I put it in there. So this is why, you know, I only live feed certain animals, and I definitely don't broadcast it. So that's end of story there. I have between 150 and 200 animals. It's if I know where everybody is supposed to be, therefore the final number isn't terribly important to me. But that's the number. It's a mix of elapids and viperids with some colubrids here and there, the medically significant ones. I generally don't have any venomous snakes of my own. Lori has a snake which many of you saw in the April mix bag. That's her snake. It's a leucistic Texas rat snake, actually a Trans-Pecos rat snake. And here's a short segment on that particular animal. Other than that, you won't see it very often because it's not venomous and I'm not really terribly interested in it. So here you go. Here's a little video of Psycho. Hello?
You may have to poke him.
Yeah, I just finger tapped him, but I don't want the head coming around and biting me either. This is Psycho. This is Lori's snake. He's an albino, a leucistic Texas rat snake. We don't often show Lori's private collection because
well, they're non-venomous.
Well, they're non-venomous, and it's not my snake, and people have a tendency to be assholes, so we just don't bother. Any rate, he's the one that was in the video the other day with the rhino viper on the ground, and
he's looking a little pink. He might be in shed.
Okay, so we're not going to bother him, so at any rate, he's a 6-foot-long leucistic rat snake, and people were asking what it was that they saw, and I just don't pay attention to him very much because he's non-venomous. So it's Lori's snake. It's a leucistic Texas rat snake named Psycho, and believe me, he's earned that name because he is an asshole. Okay, so that's another thing off my list. Rattlesnakes. I don't keep hardly any North American rattlesnakes. I have the little white speckled rattlesnakes that were born here a year ago. I have their parents, but that's all that I have in the house that requires crowfab as an anti-venom. Crowfab is wildly expensive and not terribly effective in my opinion. It works, but you have to use a lot, and that's because of the design of the anti-venom. The U.S. average number of vials used annually per patient is about 14 vials. And typically, hospitals charge you about $6,000 a vial, so you can do the math. And it adds up quite quickly, and that's not even counting the hospital and doctor charges. A single bite from a rattlesnake probably will get you a financial burden of $100,000 or more. Sometimes a little less, sometimes a little not. My mamba bite overnight stay in the hospital in ICU. I was released the next day. I brought my own Anti-Venom, and it was still $12,000. So these are big financial burdens. So you really need to consider carefully, keeping venomous snakes, because not only is your life at risk, your family's life at risk if something gets loose, but also your financial well-being. A bite can be devastating. Well, right now the most toxic snake, drop for drop, is the Papuan taipans that I have here. I did have some eastern browns, but I sent them somewhere else. Those are the sort of snakes that if you don't keep your own anti-venom supply and you go to the hospital, you're probably not going to make it out of the hospital if you don't arrive with anti-venom, at least a starter dose. Yet many people still keep those snakes with no anti-venom to fall back on in case of emergency. You can't rely on local zoos to come up with certain anti-venoms. Not many zoos keep taipans anymore. Okay, so that's the most toxic snake. That's not necessarily the snake that kills the most people annually. That would fall to the saw-scale vipers that are here and the Russell's vipers. Those kill more people on the planet than practically all the other snakes combined, are the saw-scales and Russell's vipers. So I don't even want to talk about toxicity in LD50, because in my estimation, any venom can kill you. So what's the difference between you could die from a copperhead bite or die from a western green mamba bite? It's the same analogy as if you shot yourself in the head with a .22 caliber handgun or a .357. It's just that you arrive at dead in a much more rapid fashion with one versus the other. Dead is dead. Substrates. Please stop asking me, oh, the snake has substrate in its mouth with the prey item. Of course they do. What do you think happens in the wild, people? Come on, use your heads, think critically. Snakes get substrate in their wild when eating prey. Same thing happens here at the lair. It's not a problem. Snakes have been dealing with that for over 65 million years. Give it a rest. Which is the most aggressive, or what I prefer to say is a defensive snake, but sometimes the best defense is a good offense. Defensive snakes, it's really hard to say, because if you consider the fact that the snakes feel at home in their cages, and basically if someone comes to your house that you don't know or don't trust, you get defensive. It's the same thing. Put yourself in the place of the snake. The snake is scared, the snake gets defensive, the snake tries to bite and kill you. Just like if you try to enter my home without permission or anything, you don't have to worry about the venomous snakes. You have to worry about me, because I'm just going to blow you away before you get very far. Same deal. So most of these animals do not see me as a threat. That's why I can get away with more than you can with a wild snake or another snake that I brought in from another facility or from an import. That's why Slinky can be let out of his cage and put up there. Elvis can be left out to roam around the room. They don't see me as threats. So they're not defensive. And just like me, if I'm walking on the street, I'm not a threat to anybody. However, I can be very defensive if necessary, if I perceive a threat. So it works the same. Housing. Snakes like small spaces, confined spaces, so they feel not threatened and safe. The snakes really like these small bins because they feel safe. They like their cages because they feel safe. When you take them out of their cages, even if I have to take them out to clean the cage, and they know me, they still feel threatened and very frightened, and this is where bites can occur. Elvis, for instance, I mean, he's got this big cage to roam around. He roams around the room. Sometimes he'll go and sun himself in the windowsill, but a lot of times he'll go in the space between these two cages over here. There's a space about 6 inches wide, about 18 inches or 20 inches long, and about that deep that he crunches his body into because it makes him feel safe. And plus it's got the added extra of being nice and warm. And he thinks that I can't get him. Well, I can, it's just a lot more difficult for me to extract him from there than from the windowsill. A lot of times I'll just lure him back to his cage with something to eat, and that usually gets his attention. Now Elvis, when you have his attention and he's in feed mode, that's when he's really dangerous because anything that moves is a potential prey item. Also, I'd like to just mention that Elvis the Rampage edition, that very short video, I use that as an entry to a contest to be a on TV sort of host. So I wanted to make it really exciting. That's not the way things normally work around here. So that went viral. It's called Elvis the Rampage edition. Pretty exciting, pretty crazy. I got him at his worst and put that video together. So enough about that. Watch the video. It's quite exciting, but I didn't feel threatened or endangered at any point during that video. I will tell you there have been times where I know what buttons not to push with Elvis, where I was afraid because he was really sincerely trying to bite and kill me. And that's another story. Once again, I'd like to thank everybody. Please keep clicking on those ads because it doesn't cost you anything. It shows me appreciation for my video, and you might find something of interest that you want to buy from the advertisers. The ad revenue stream helps to keep my operation going. It allows me to buy food for snakes without some freebies that I get from some places. Cost $4,000 last year alone. That's a lot of money. That's not counting electricity, caging, you know, other things that go on. So please keep that going. Thanks very much. I get so many YouTube questions and stuff, I can't possibly answer them because I have a full-time job that is more than 40 hours a week, and sometimes it takes me on the road. So I try to keep the videos flowing. You'll see one typically every Friday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. I try to mix it up so there isn't one snake that dominates the videos, and everybody gets to see a variety of the animals that I have here. Some animals you see, some animals you don't, especially the live feeders. You don't necessarily see them in action. So enough said. Take care. Thanks for your support again. Cheers.